And
Akuchi Moya.
you're good.
Is that my cue? Is that the cue now? Is it Kuche Moya? Okay, we're here to talk about Deep Space Nine at 9ish. Season 2, episode 17, Playing God. Akuche Moya to you all, and Akuche Moya good night. We're here to talk about all things Dax and Trills tonight, guys. This is a Dax focused episode. A Trill basically candidate comes onto the station, and we get to learn what his whole deal is for the majority of the episode. But we get a few other characters popping in their heads in with stories every now and then. Jake's with the Dabo girl, and Cisco's having to deal with that. We got some other exciting things to talk about in this episode, but without further ado, I'll introduce our panelists here. We got Dave Mader to my brother on the bottom right here in the command center, the Star Trek nerd core. And over on the left, we have Kevin and Ashley Millard. How are you? All right, enthusiasm's up. Good to see. So talking about Dax in this episode, guys, what do you really think of how they develop this character? And do you think they do a good job? Do you think they fall short? Dave, what do you think?
I think that Terry Farrell is actually pretty strong in this episode on the watch tonight. I thought that in terms of how she's written, I think is really more of your question, though. It's kind of weak in a lot of ways, although really interesting in other ways. I think that in terms, I want to be more specific in the ways it was weak. I thought that this character, the Trill initiate, whatever his name was, Arjun, right? He was not good. He was a very bad performance. He's even more poorly written than her. If in terms of
how dare you besmirch the great name of
who's Jeffrey Blake?
I will not have you on this podcast.
Academy Award winning actor Jeffrey Blake. No, it's not like he went on. Dave, we don't know what you're talking about. This guy, what all kind of.
Dave, he has one nomination for a daytime Emmy.
He was not good in this episode. He was very wooden, I thought, and his read of his lines was unnatural, uncomfortable. I get that that's part of the of how the character is supposed to be uncomfortable, but it's kind of like he's also irredeemable in my eyes. Anyway, so aside from that, I think that's my least favorite part of the episode. But I think that there's a lot of backstory to Dax and more to Jadzia here. This is maybe as much as we're really going to get for a while, or at all. Maybe I can't remember how much more they dive into her Jadzia's backstory after this. They do pay off, I guess, the Curzon Jadzia thing. And this whole thing brought me a bunch of questions about the Trill that I need to get into tonight. But I don't want to take over, so I don't want to. You want me to tell you? I'll tell you right now. But
no, we're gonna head over to Kevin and Ashley and see what they think about things. Kevin and Ashley, the Trills, the Jadzia character. Do you think they developed the character well here, or do you think
not good enough?
Not good enough.
I think in the entire series they don't develop her well enough. There's a lot that we could have learned about her that we never got. In 6 seasons, we didn't get the amount we got of Ezri.
Yeah, like Kevin, the entire episode, I'm just watching it. Like, I'm just like, Terry Farrell is just like showing off, and she's like constantly hitting on everything and making sexual innuendos. And I'm kind of like, what do you make of it? Like, I feel like it's just like she's showing off as a performer rather than like, because like the writing for her just, I don't feel is very substantive.
substantive.
Substantial?
Yes.
Substantive. No, none of us.
Substantial. One of those.
None of us can say it.
We
substantive.
We know or tried it.
It's hard to say.
That's half the battle.
You know what?
I think new
anyway,
podcast
Kevin.
botch pronunciations with
Kevin.
the gang. No, this is about as good an episode we get for Jadzia until Worf, like until their relationship.
Yeah.
It's the one that dives into her story the most, and it is just surface level.
Yeah.
Like it's not deep at all. Yeah.
No.
And Arjun, he's just awful. I actually don't. I like this episode. I hate Arjun a lot. He also reminds me.
Yeah.
He immediately reminds
I
me
mean,
of a way more annoying Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
a
probably
terrible
about
idea
right.
for an episode. I would have preferred if she had gotten a better initiate.
Yeah, that would have been better. The whole episode, like for me, it was written as if the initiative guy person is not important. What's important is the story we need to tell you about Jadzia and Curzon, and we just have to get to that eventually. Meanwhile, we haven't even gotten to the crazy part of this episode, guys. They go into the Gamma Quadrant, and they somehow have while they're in warp, they get some sort of subspace fracture.
Subspace seaweed.
Subspace seaweed. Somehow this seaweed attaches itself to the rightness of a shuttle. There it is. Okay. So this is an entire universe, kind of like a god particle kind of thing going on, right? That's kind of like how right?
Yeah.
And so there's like entire civilizations, or God knows, like it's so vast and powerful that they really don't know enough about it, but they know it's expanding exponentially at a certain point. Meanwhile, at the same time, Jadzia is like running point on this. She's going to have a conversation with the initiative guy about like what it was like to be in a trill. I was like, isn't there like a major catastrophe could be happening on, and everyone's just like kind of like doing their own thing. I don't know. There's not a lot of urgency. What did you think about that, Dave?
Well, it's a little bit weak. I think that this was a pretty big scientific discovery, it seemed like, and I wasn't quite even really sure, where it went. Like, what was this about? How it's resolved. I think it's either overwhelming or underwhelming, depending on how you want to look at it. Probably the latter. And it could be an omega particle. That's one theory, and perhaps because Commander Sisko is not a captain yet, he doesn't know about the omega particle or the omega initiative.
Right.
So he's completely oblivious to all what's going on here.
And there's no captain on board or an admiral or anything there. That's right.
I feel like this would have been a better episode if this had been a bigger part of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with Sisko having to decide whether to destroy this whole universe that has life in it to save his own. I mean, they briefly gloss over that and then make the whole thing about Jadzia being all quirky and weird and shit. Like, it kind of misses the mark for what it started.
Yeah, it's like 2 episodes in one, and both were like half an episode, but they couldn't really figure out a way to make them a full episode, so they kind of mashed these 2 episodes together. That's kind of what I feel about it, watching it, because like those 2 things don't really go together. Like the way mission with the Trills when they come back, like it's just like he's just a pilot. He's like this level 5 pilot, and then he had that whole scene when they're in the wormhole. What did you think about that, Dave?
When they were like flying around,
different.
like they were like, because he's a level 5 pilot, Jeff, right? Like, I don't know if you heard that a few times in the dialogue.
Just a few times.
It's a level. Dax is only level 3, but she'll fly it if she has to. Yeah,
well, yeah, she's only level 3. I don't know what how much of a jump it is. It's 2 levels. I don't know, but it's you can go fly through these, whatever the hell they were. Like this whole plot, it felt like they were just going through the motions to me. Oh, we need to do some kind of science fiction, whichever, McCall, because it's Star Trek, and this is what we're supposed to do, I guess, is have weird shit come at us and we deal with it. And we're also going to have this whole character development thing, but it's not really going to matter in the long term. It was something they were able to solve with a runabout and kind of,
Yeah, I know your feelings about the runabouts.
And there's like this pilot guy who has dad issues and like all kinds of things. Like, there's lots of issues. I think about
why they're letting a guy that's not even in Starfleet take over when the entire universe is on the line.
Yeah, it's all the whole thing is weird, and then
pilot Kevin.
Right,
who has never piloted a runabout ever.
He's a level 5.
He's a level 5. They're chasing like these Cardassian rats, the voles, throughout the whole thing. Jeff,
these things were the most interesting thing of the episode. I was like, "Who made that? That is terrifying."
Jim Henson made that.
Like, how did they go from chasing these voles to this life and death situation? But he's in this whole life and death. Like, I'm going to take an hour before to decide if I'm going to destroy this proto universe. But wait, my son's dating a Dabo girl, and I'm dealing with like an infestation of voles, and I got Quark who's up my butt about that, and whatever. And there's just all kinds of issues.
Yeah, and Kira's like, destroy the universe.
Don't call her a girl. Dave prefers to be called a woman.
Who?
Yeah, the double.
Kira. She's a double woman. She's a double woman. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Kira's now we know why Kira's so frustrated all the time. She's the only one paying any attention to what's going on.
Yeah,
like she's the only one that can focus on the actual problem.
Like the rest of them are only here on assignment. Like this is I know the station is not Bajor, but this is kind of her home turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, "Hey, this is gonna like destroy the whole sector. That's Bajor. I say we destroy it." And everyone's like, "Hold on a second here, Kira."
Even Odo,
you heard that my son is dating a Dabo girl? Like,
yeah. And did you know there's another person trying to become a Trill, but I'm not sure he's ready.
Yeah, not that it's any of my business.
He doesn't seem like he actually wants to be joined, so we need to figure this out.
Right, but in this whole argument that Kira is like, no, we have to save the station from this proto-universe destroying whatever and destroying maybe my entire planet and everything else. And Odo's like, we can't do that. And she's like, it's like scraping ants off your boot or whatever. This is not.
I love that line. Yeah,
you're gonna come off well in this argument. And Odo's like, I don't step on ants, Major. And I thought you two were friends, but this argument is very philosophical.
That's the high point of the whole episode. Yeah. I don't step on ants. Like it's the high point.
It suits both their characters, especially Odo with the way he was discovered as a life form, and then so he's not gonna be for destroying this type of a discovery. Whereas Kira's like, whatever, so I've killed things before in the preservation of my homeworld. I'll do it again.
Well, it's good that because he's the only one wearing a Bajoran uniform, and I think it's hard to say like, yeah, these Starfleet characters, it can't mean as much to them because they can, if they need to get, evacuate and leave, or this is not their home, at least, right? Like truly. So it's, they don't have as much at stake, but Odo kind of makes the counter argument here, which I think helps that part of the episode. But overall, this episode, I don't know. I'm up and down on certain. I think that this is good for Terry Farrell's character. I think it's good for Curzon Dax, and sort of the backstory. We hear a lot about how she flunked out of the program and then got back in, and that becomes a huge part of her character. So I think that there's a lot of good things here. It's not all bad, but it's kind of a.
Okay, here's my thing with this, Dave, especially with the story you just mentioned. So she goes into the program, and then Curzon immediately steps up that she's too shy, too timid, not good enough, kind of like the way she's snuffing out this guy, right? And so she basically gets kicked out by Curzon, right? And so she gets so pissed off, she basically goes back in spite, and then requests the Dax symbiote. I think on purpose, because that was her whole mission was to get the Dax symbiote from Curzon, kind of like a big F you. You don't think I'm good enough? I am good enough, and I'm going to take your symbiote type thing. That's how I took that story.
Curzon could have said no to that, though.
That's true, but I think he was impressed, and that was the whole point. That you have to fight and claw to be able to be worthy of this honor.
Do we all remember the
reason she flunked out?
Because he was horny for her.
Yes, he was in love with her.
in love with her.
Person. Everyone on the goddamn show at one point was in love with fucking Dax.
With Jadzia?
Yeah,
Or
with Jadzia.
yeah.
With Jadzia more specifically, even Dax themselves.
Except Cisco.
Well, but don't Cisco mirror Cisco or Cisco would
there you
mirror
go.
Dax.
Mirror Cisco.
Yeah. Right. There's been some crossovers there.
And Odo. I don't think Odo's ever gone with
No,
Dax.
Odo and Dax never got together. But that's like one of the only things that she didn't. Even like that guy she was with in this episode. Who was that guy?
Yeah, she was hitting on him pretty hard at the beginning of the episode.
Hitting on him. He was
like,
leaving her quarters in the morning.
Yeah. Oh no, were they? Yeah, I guess they were. Okay, yeah, I didn't even realize.
What?
They were banging.
Yeah, for sure.
I forgot.
He was like,
I forgot about.
She was getting out of the shower. He was.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
What did you think? They were.
Why was she? Oh, I wasn't sure. I forgot about that part. It's at the beginning of the episode. Yes. Why? Why is she doing that? That seems unprofessional.
I think that's who she is. I think he kept showing up early. She wasn't really planning for her. She wasn't planning for him to see her like that. But she doesn't really care. She's Dax.
No.
Who's to say what's professional in the future?
Okay. But here's my question about this whole backstory, Jeff, and everybody. Okay, so the story is we find out later on, Curzon had a thing for Jadzia when she was an initiate. He couldn't handle it, so flunked her out. But then when she reapplied, he had gotten over it and sort of like said, no, bring her back in, which was historic because nobody who had flunked out had got back in ever. So like she had broken that sort of that barrier, and then later, she kind of rose up the ranks, but Jadzia also kind of tells that the whole experience did sort of temper her and make her stronger and brought more personality out of her. We have to kind of take it at their word, because as she's telling this story in this episode, she's telling it from both points of view. Well, I was Curzon and I did this, but now I was Jadzia and I did that, and it raised these questions of like, okay, so why don't you know why Curzon did these things? Like, you should know, aren't you, Dax? Like, do you only have the memories, or like, and does that only include events, or does that also include thoughts and feelings? I always thought it was everything. It was like you were that person and you remember everything about being that person. But he asked, well, why do you think Dax let you, or Curzon let you back in? She goes, I don't really know. Why don't you know? You should know. You should definitely know.
And she also goes like, I'm Jadzia Dax. She makes a whole point about it in one point in the episode, and then like the next like scene or the next sentence, she was like, and then Jadzia did this and Jadzia did that, and I'm like, so you're talking about Jadzia in the third person, yet you're saying you are Jadzia Dax, so like I was just like, this is confusing. Like, like, what, are you talking as Jadzia? Are you talking as Dax? Why? Yeah, you're right. Why can't you remember Curzon? Shouldn't you be able to know exactly how Curzon felt about Dax? About Jadzia? You're Dax.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Well, it seems like when they're joined, it's kind of confusing too, because they have to do that whole ceremony where they split all the personalities up to learn more about themselves and to learn more. I mean, that's the whole reason for that exercise. So it would seem like when it's convenient, they remember everything, but not always.
Well, it's I guess it's like anybody's memory. You might not remember everything specifically. You might it's a long-term memory, and certain things you'll remember very well, and some things you won't. And there's kind of inconsistencies here because we get Ezri later on, and so we always have this Jadzia to Ezri comparison. What is Dax? What is respectively these two individuals? I'm still very unclear, right? Who is Curzon, who is Jadzia, and who is Ezri, and what is the commonality between any of them? Other than maybe confidence, like a little bit, and like gets along with Cisco.
She also Ezri has that episode. I mean, we'll get there in like 3 years, but Ezri has the episode where she's confused after first being joined, and she says she's confused because there's so much going on in there that she's having trouble sorting them out.
True, but her personality should be completely overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
But Ezri's like, no, I don't like Gawk, and no, I don't like. Well, she kind of is into Worf at first, and then she kind of, but whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's they were not right for each other anyway. But that we'll get to that in 3 years. It's just, Jeff.
We're not talking about Ezri. This is the episode about Jadzia. This is what's so sad about Jadzia's character and the way they wrote her, is that they didn't really ever explain. Like, we never really get to see Trill. We never really get to meet a lot. We don't really
get depth with Dax.
You don't.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
She's a mysterious character in a lot of ways.
Their species is still very mysterious too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they knew what to do with it and kept it mysterious.
Do you want to know what's going on in Star Trek Discovery with the Trill?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't really want to know.
If you want to tell.
Spoilers.
But tell us anyway. So
well, I don't want to give you too much spoilers, but the Trill.
Go for it.
Yeah, Star Trek Discovery 3rd season. Spoiler alert.
Are the Trills bad guys now and stuff and taking over?
No, they're not bad guys, but the symbiote population's been decimated after the burn, and so there's
a burn.
The big burn that destroyed all the it's a long story. Anyway, so there's a big. This is 32nd century, and the Trill are, like many species, are very isolated from the rest of the galactic community, and but there's a character named Adira who gets joined to a Trill or a symbiote, and this is the first time a non-Trill humanoid has been joined to the symbiote for any kind of like permanent joining, and it's a big controversy on Trill. Spoilers, they get through it, but it's or whatever. But and we're learning more about symbiotes now and the Trill Society and certain things as that show is evolving.
Sounds like someone on Discovery was like, you know who's really mysterious that we should build out? The fucking Trill.
Well, I think the Trill are a good allegory today's. Like, there's a lot of obviously, like, the trans rights and activism is a big part of today's conversation, social conversation, social activism, and I think that the Trill, from a narrative point of view, literary point of view, lend itself well to sort of speaking to that. And LGBTQ rights and things like that.
How so?
Yeah, I don't see that.
Because the symbiotes end up going into either male or female, and then they end up being attracted to either male or female Trill.
I feel like it's more of a representation of DID, dissociative identity disorder, when you believe you're multiple people.
Well, it can be also that. I think that there's some stories you can write around that too. I think that and they're all, I think it's also because the actor who plays Adira is non-binary, and also the character of Adira is identified as non-binary, and I think it's also to do with that. But it's also and uses the they and them pronouns, but it has kind of to do with the fact that as being a somebody in a long line of hosts in the Trill, you are sort of a link in a chain, a link in a series of identities of a chain of a, that you're if I can channel the 11th Doctor Matt Smith, you're kind of multiple people throughout your life. You're always kind of changing, and I think that that's kind of what the Trill are in some ways, right? You're passing on that sort of identity. You can be one and many.
Okay. Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about the Klingon chef scene in this episode, where we get the opera singer again, who's singing the song with Dax.
Yes,
there he is.
I think they should have built this guy's character out more. I like this guy.
Yeah, I don't know why he wasn't on the show more. See, he was early on, and then they were like, okay, I don't know if we could set up this Klingon restaurant all the time.
I would have liked to have seen a business war between him and Quark.
He looks like Worf's like brother. Like, I mean, he doesn't. He looks a lot like Worf.
I want to know more about his backstory. Why isn't he on that path of being a warrior? Why is he okay with being a restaurateur who's fat? Because this is the only fat Klingon we've ever seen, right?
Well, again, like there's things that we don't know about Klingon society really, and that they might.
That's what I'm saying. I want some backstory.
They have to have, but the Klingons have to have scientists.
Worf was raised by humans and is still on that warrior path.
But Worf also comes from a noble family with a like sort of a specific pedigree, and like he's kind of from the royalty, right? You know, and this guy's maybe he's from a different caste. We also know Martok came from sort of he kind of went outside of his caste, right?
Yeah. Yes.
The Kethalolans.
The Kethalolans, where whatever the hell they do there, they're farmers or whatever it was, right? And not
we were meek peasant farmers.
Is that what he says? Is that what they
something like that?
Something like that. They weren't like in core was a big like kind of like Worf, like a similar like a big important person sort of from his birthright.
Yeah.
But he's a big guy. He's a big Klingon, man.
Oh yeah.
I was like, is this the actor or was this like added to this guy? Like,
no, his name's Ron Taylor. Look him up. He died in 2002, actually. But he was on like Home Improvement and Family Matters. But yeah, no, he's big. He's a big man.
Okay.
Yeah, like tall and just like a brick house of a person.
Right. And and like I'm not to shame anybody. I was just like, whoa, this guy. This is a big man. And so I was and he's a good singer, I guess. And but who wants to go eat at this Klingon restaurant? Is my question, Jeff.
Lots of people.
Jadzia loves gach.
Always.
Always. We haven't touched.
A lot of Klingons seem to go through Deep Space Nine, so it's a good place to have a Klingon restaurant.
You haven't touched your gach. Actually, the gach has moved itself.
I don't know that we ever see another Klingon in the Klingon restaurant.
No, probably not.
I don't think we ever saw Worf. Like, I don't think like the Klingon restaurant was a thing after Worf got there. I feel like because then there's kind of the anti.
A few episodes.
Yeah.
Did his business suffer when the conflict breaks out in season 4 with the Klingons?
Well, I wonder if he left. Maybe he closed up shop and left because then the Klingons were at war with them.
Maybe nobody would sell him a Jumja stick.
Maybe
a Jumja stick.
Klingons don't like Jumja sticks.
Who knows? Maybe this Klingon does.
Yeah, maybe he does. Maybe it's.
This guy proves that the Klingons have a rich and varied culture.
And like, and Jadzia says that they're as varied a people as any. Like they've got people who want to be warriors and people who don't, and it's just like these are the types of people you would meet. Like especially in space, you would probably meet warriors, especially from a militant race like the Klingons. You're not going to meet like here's our Broadway crew from Kronos doing Hello Dolly, whatever the production they're putting on. Oklahoma.
Blood operas. That's what they were doing.
There's the restaurant there too.
It's really not a restaurant. It's a wall that they put some signs up in front of and put some tables
like
out.
A cafeteria.
Yeah.
So food court is what it is.
They just set the food court set up. Yep.
Yeah, it's not, restaurant is kind of.
There should be a food court on the station of the Klingon food, the Romulan food.
There is. It's a promenade.
Yeah, I think there kind of is because then you also got the dude selling the Jumja sticks.
They're called replicators.
No, you want to go buy an authentic Jumja stick.
Yeah, you don't want that crap, that fake crap. Jumja stick, very.
You gotta get the real stuff.
I bet you the person selling those Jumja sticks is replicating them behind the counter. They're not getting fresh Jumjas to make fresh Jumja sticks.
Well, maybe like they're bringing it from Bayshore, from the Jumja tree.
No way.
It's sap, right? It comes sap from the Jumja
tree. They
tree.
Can't even get their orphans blankets. They're gonna get Jumja from a Jumja tree up to the station.
There are some privileged Bajorans who have Jumja sticks. Okay, like it's complicated.
Okay,
it's a capitalist society.
Yeah,
There's
they don't
something
care
better.
about their orphans.
No, especially those Cardassian orphans.
That's
right. Okay, so I mean, this episode is all over the place for me, guys. Like, there's too many. There's like, I'm really glad later on that Deep Space Nine figured out that let's just tell one story in our episode. In this episode, like, we already kind of laughed about it, but like, you got the Jake Sisko stuff, you got the rats, the Cardassian rats, and you got Kira and O'Brien trying to fix it. Then you got the Jadzia with this Trill guy coming on. Then you got the Curzon stuff backstory, and then you got it's just constant, like, jumping around. You have they go to the Gamma Quadrant, then they come back, then they have.
What's going on? Is he frozen?
He is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay. He might drop off and come back in a minute. So for that,
just to prove Jeff's point, at one point yesterday, I stopped paying attention to the episode for a few minutes, started paying attention again, looked at Kevin and went, "Is this the next episode?" Because
I think we have to criticize one person specifically here, and I think it's Michael Piller, who has a credit on this screenplay. So Jim Trombata wrote this story and was also credit on the screenplay. And but Jim Trombata was not. He's like kind of a he was only around for a few episodes of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. He was not exactly a big player. Michael Piller, co-creator of Deep Space Nine, a showrunner, kind of Rick Berman's second in command in a lot of ways. And not a good writer, I don't think. A lot of his scripts are not strong, but what I think Michael Piller was good at was hiring good writers and eventually giving Ira Stephen Bear a little bit more free reign, and eventually too much free reign, if you ask me. But I think that when we kind of look like, what's this episode? We didn't like this. What was going on? Were we jumping around too much? Couldn't figure out what the show wanted to be. I feel like it's always a Michael Piller story. Maybe unfair. He's no longer living, but he can't jump in here and defend himself. And as I'm sure
we can say anything.
No, Dave, you don't see. We had to lay the groundwork at the beginning. We had to put in some boring ass convoluted episodes, so you just basically had all that info in your head. So when we got to the good stuff, it was actually, you didn't have to deal with all that crap.
Well, that was the thought I had watching this tonight. I was like, okay, so if the Dominion hadn't come along, like we know that they're going to in a few episodes at the end of this season, and it's going to kind of change the show forever, right? Like if they hadn't come along, like, their lives would have been a lot more boring, for sure. They definitely would have. They would have had more times like this
if they hadn't written in the Dominion.
Guys,
if they hadn't written in the Dominion, this would have been Enterprise, and it would have been over in 4 seasons.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. The Dominion was huge. So when they bring the universe thing back to the Gamma Quadrant, what happens? How do they get rid of it?
They don't tell us.
No.
Yeah. So did they talk about bad writing? They didn't even have an end.
No.
A lot of Deep Space Nine episodes don't have an end.
Yeah, in the beginning especially.
Yeah.
They never resolve it. It
says they return it to where they got it. Like that's basically like what they did. They took it to where they got it.
And why all the moral quandary and why all the discussion if it was just so easy to fix this problem? Like it seemed really easy. Like he was like, "I'll give you my decision in an hour," and are we going to destroy this universe or just take it back where it came from? And that's it. Why is that even a hard decision?
Because it was going to be tricky, Kevin. They needed a containment field that was going to hold up the
5 pilot. Just so happens that there was one available.
They had one available. He was a Trill, learning to, maybe he's good enough to have a stupid bug worm in his gut, and so that was what this episode was all about. And I just think, I don't know, like they don't resolve. They set up this impossible situation where they have this ever expanding universe, and they're like, yeah, you know what? We'll just take it over to the other Gamma Quadrant. If they had brought this up later with the Dominion, like we were just talking, like the Dominion was like, hey, what the hell? You left this giant universe expanding in our quadrant. And that was their beef with them. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, that's why they went to war with them.
But we don't find out till the last episode.
Yeah.
Wei Yun is just like, this all started because of Dax and that level 5 pilot.
That would have been a better ending.
What one critic wrote about this episode, he says, forget the protoverse. It's not important. This episode succeeds by playing as a day in the life episode, finally striking the delicate interplay of A, B, and C stories that Michael Piller hoped would characterize each Deep Space Nine episode. Here, the cast of characters, including the character of DS9 itself, come to fruition. There is a gentle, breezy pace to the show, even a refreshing sense of whimsy with the cat-sized vole varmints and a hilarious scene between Arjun and Quark. Terry Farrell, obviously relishing the more body aspects of her character, demonstrates that Dax is as comfortable in a late-night Tongo game as she is in front of a computer screen, maybe more so. And he considered one of, this is a guy from Cine Fantastic. He considered one to be one of the more the second season's finest shows that they had. So they liked it at the time. It was pretty well received at the time, but at least that guy.
Well, by that one guy who is wrong,
right? But just a different perspective.
Yeah, he's wrong on all counts.
Listen to this other review. It says this is a confusing episode because Jadzia Dax goes from fun-loving and cool to harsh and butt-headed very quickly and inexplicably. I never really felt this was written very well because of this, though the episode is enjoyable.
I disagree with that too. I think her demeanor makes total sense. She wants to be like, this is her first initiate. She wants to be easy on him and then finds that she can't, and it annoys her, and it kind of makes her bitchy. But
yeah, pretty much. She's like,
in a good way, like, yeah,
right. And the only scene I really do like in this episode is when Cisco says to Dax, like, Curzon pushed you, and then it's like, and it worked, and it made you who you are today, or whatever. And she's like, damn it, you're right. You know.
Yeah, and this is my whole thing. Like, I know you're a new person when you become Jadzia Dax, but what exactly carries over? You were just Curzon Dax, this like ambassador, huge figure, super confident, boisterous, loved the ladies, and now you're this other person. But is it just Tongo games? Is it just like little things, or is it's very selective on what carries over from the last life?
Well, obviously the love of Klingon stuff carried over,
but it doesn't for Ezri.
No,
it seems there also has to be a predisposition to liking these things.
Yeah,
right. And if you don't like it, like the host, I think, is the dominant personality overall, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think so, because Jadzia and Ezri are very different.
So different, I can't even figure out who's Dax. What's the Dax personality exactly?
Dax is the person that walks around with their hands behind their back all smugly and acts like they're better than everybody. That's who Dax is. Dax is like this like wise old person that has all these things, and like you just watch the way they walk and their body language. Like Ezri and Jadzia, when they become Dax, walk. Well, we already see Ezri, but like the way they walk and the way they kind of shut around, and that's what I notice. Mannerisms. They stick with certain mannerisms.
What I would love to see is a storyline in Star Trek, if they're going to eventually, keep doing Trill characters and Trill storylines with symbiotes. Is like, show me the first host and the first symbiote. Like, this is their first go, right? Because I think that's maybe the more interesting thing, because you don't have I have 7 lifetimes of whatever. It's like, no, you don't. You're both kind of doing this for the first time together as a joined.
I have a question. Where do the symbionts come from? How do they reproduce?
So they're from these caves underneath Trill, like they're kind of like these with their liquid goo, and they swim. They swim in there, and there's electrical pulses and stuff, and you can go in there, and they're kind of like a telepathic and like little entity thing.
And they only have like so many of these things.
They have even fewer after the burn, but yes, it's there's only 10% of their population gets to be joined.
And how many of how many of do all the symbiotes that are born become like joined with a Trill, or do some symbiotes just hang out in the goo?
It's not explained.
I want to know.
Me too. I think that well, okay, like in some people like that, some people like can you help me define the rules, right? Like, well, who are the Romulans, who are the whatever, how does this work, what are the parameters of that? I think like fans like me really appreciate that stuff. To other fans, that stuff's boring. Who cares? I just want to I want a really good drama, or I want some great acting, or I want somebody to punch somebody out. I guess it comes down to what does the majority want. But more of that, the better, especially when you're doing these, especially in a season like Deep Space Nine, we have 25 episodes every season. Tell me more. Give me more information about this world. You got nothing else to do. Fill the time. You got to fill the hour. What do you got to get?
I like that too, but oddly, I never cared about the Trills at all. I never needed to know more. I don't think they built them out enough to even pique my interest.
What about the Beta Z? The Betazoids?
Nope, don't care. They're telepathic. They're human but telepathic. What else do I need to know?
I think what you also need to do is you need to make these alien species more alien, right? Because I think that there's the Trill, the Betazoids, to your point, Jeff, even the Bajorans, and a few others. They're just kind of human adjacent, right? Whereas Klingons, and even I know that Vulcans and Romulans only have pointy ears, but there's kind of a distinct thing to them. I think they're kind of more alien.
Yeah, they all look Italian. They all look Italian or from Greece.
And Dorians have a very distinct place in and I think that's what you need to if you're gonna have all these species, do the most you can with them, especially if they're recurring. The Orions are starting. They're in the news shows and Discovery and Picard and whatever. They love Andorians. They love these Orions. Oh, we might have a special Christmas miracle.
Snow.
Oh,
if he pops in, we'll see.
1 sec.
All of a sudden now it doesn't want to work. Jeez.
Well, we hear you.
Well, yeah, and I'm just a blank screen. Lovely.
I think it's a
coolant leak. Coolant leak. Oh, really? Come on, guys. Oh,
you have trying to go to your main camera.
Jeez, I stopped using a small camera for a while, so. Hold on a second. Un momento, por favores. See, look at me. I just derailed the conversation completely.
It's okay. We're just excited you were here. So,
Jaemeel, we're here. We're talking about.
Well, Kevin wasn't that excited, but
yeah, I kind of heard his disdain about the episode, so I'm like, I was able to wrap up some things, and other people are gonna wait. DS9 at 9 is too important. I'm sorry.
Well, we're glad. No, hey, you're right. So,
okay,
yeah. So
I'm gonna have to refresh.
You watch the episode,
but yeah, this episode.
All right, he'll be back. He'll be back. All right, and we'll talk. Okay. Yeah, Ashley, Dave. What's the deal? What are the thoughts? What are we gonna ask Jaemeel? What's a question we should ask Jaemeel?
Ask him if he heard anything I was saying, and does he agree with everything I said?
Well,
ask him if he thinks that Dave Mater had the best points of this episode.
I will. That'll be the first question.
I think that's. I think he was going to say that anyway. I kind of want to know if he already heard. So that's all.
Right.
If not, I might have to re-explain to him some of my better points. That's all.
Great.
Yeah, you'll need the DVD commentary on the points.
But
break it down.
He's trying to re-engage right now, so we'll see.
It's no okay. Kevin, any questions for Jaemeel about this episode? Anything you're fascinated with, and you're like, "What the hell was that?"
Nope. This episode is pretty flat.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. A flat episode. You know, it's not overly. It's not
It's not egregiously bad.
And but it's also not great either. It's fine. Like I won't on rewatches. I won't skip it, but I also won't be excited for it either.
I would skip this. I think. Like I don't need to ever see this again. It's got very little that I think needs to be revisited specifically.
I would leave it on if I were also doing something else at the time.
Yeah, like we were last night.
Like compared to even some original series episodes, say what you will about them. They can be bad. They can be cheesy. They can be like special effects that you just kind of at. But at the same time, they're entertaining. From an entertainment point of view, I can't say this had a ton of entertainment.
Just the step on ants. I don't step on ants. I love that line. It's one of my favorite lines in all of Deep Space Nine.
Is he coming in?
Well, I liked when Kira was saying,
you loved when Kira was saying,
We'll never know what she was saying.
She said a bunch of things.
She did.
She loves murdering ants.
Loves it.
On her boot. Odo didn't have any problem murdering those rat things, Cardassian rats that were.
Neither did Cisco. Cisco said, "Go to take off the stun setting where this means war." Okay, Jameel's having he's trying to connect from Antarctica.
They're eating through all of the wiring and shit on the station.
Why can't they just lock on to all the life signals of those things and just beam them into space?
Gullivac said to Chief O'Brien, "Ha ha ha! Your Federation technology can't figure out how to get them out, huh?" I guess they're hard for sensors. They happen to be a life form that eats energy, especially the energy they use in the future to power space stations, which is very convenient. I'm not sure how this specific species evolved on their planet, and got on their space stations, but they did. And
they got on the station because they used them for vol fighting.
For fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't remember the vol fights? They talk
the great vol fights.
The
Cardassians talked about them. They there was betting and stuff. It's like their version of dog fights.
Right, but worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, bulls.
The Cardassians are a brutal race.
They are.
There's not a lot of teddy bears and holding hands in the Cardassians.
No, they're eating those eggs. They like to break open those eggs and eat them with the thing. Like remember that story that he says to Picard when he's like, 4 lights.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So is Jaemeel coming back?
It's hard to say. That might be all we get. I don't know.
We don't even know what he thought about Dax
and how right I was about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the most important question. Was how right Dave was about.
How right was Dave?
About a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to get some fun facts though, Jeff?
Yeah, we could do some fun facts while we wait.
Oh, that might be him now. Yeah, I've been teased before though. Okay. Jaemeel, do you think it's safe to add you? He didn't answer. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, we see something.
Oh!
Hey! There's his shoulder.
Ella
Marine.
Totally just.
I was surprised at how right you were this episode.
I know. Me too.
Yeah, well, that's the first question, Jaemeel. Is what were your takes on Dave's takes and how right were they?
Well, Dave had a very interesting approach. and it's interesting. Led me to be interested, so I'm pretty sure it garnered a lot of interest.
Okay, now I thank you, Jaemeel, for backing me up there. But I suspect you have not actually heard some of the earlier statements I made.
All I heard was all the commentary about your comment, not what your actual
the comments
comment
themselves.
was.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to float something out to you here, not to beat a dead horse, if that's what it is. But I was bringing up earlier that the Trill, and Jaemeel, I know you've also seen Discovery. You're following along with season 3, and they did a Trill. They have a Trill character now, and there's a lot more being developed there. And this was a very Trill focused episode, and I talked about the Trill being sort of a good literary analogy for, you know, like the non-binaries, the trans movements, different things, and sort of becoming new people and changing identities and sort of carrying over a shared history or whatever. It wasn't quite. No, they weren't quite following me. So I was just like, am I accurate or am I off base?
Well, more so in Discovery, yes, definitely. But you can see how it was kind of, and Star Trek did that in earlier times, where there's some things that they really lean into, it being like a representation of things. But for the Trill itself, it was kind of like, yay, we're presenting this kind of demographic, this type of portion of society, but not really fully committing to it, right? They're using it as like a catch-all for a lot of things, like here's our kind of sexually charged individual, our character. Like Dax plays a lot of roles, like kind of fills a lot of check boxes, I feel. And that's how they kind of used her, depending on the episode. So this one was, I'm going to defend this episode a lot, very briefly, because I know I'm at the tail end of the episode of this podcast. I think this was a good episode. The only problem is that they really did a great job on Dax, and Arjun is such a boring character. Such an unlikable, boring character.
I agree.
Right?
I don't think she should have forgiven Arjun. I think Arjun is such a jerk to her in that one scene, right?
He wasn't a jerk per se. He showed a little bit of backbone for like 5 seconds, right? So I wouldn't count that as being a jerk. But unfortunately, the rest of the time he was a wet towel, right? Even in his moment of victory, it seemed like, did he do it, or did Dax kind of do all the heavy lifting and kind of, you know, push him along like a baby picking up a napkin, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's like, "Oh, great job,
she
baby.
was like, "Hey,
yes, great job."
She's like, "Hey, you're a level 5 pilot. I'm a level 3 pilot. I
Dax
could
probably
do
could've done
this, but how about you do it?"
Yeah.
But yeah, Dax probably could have
Told
done
him
it.
what to do
But she's
at
like,
every
"You need
turn."
to do it because
Yeah.
you need to learn to be a risk taker." And that's what Star Trek teaches you. The only way to greatness is to take a knife through the back, to fly a wormhole with a universe in your shuttle at crazy speeds, very likely to die. That's the way you get to the top.
That's a great point on your resume, I'm just saying. It's like, did you transport a universe in a shuttlecraft that could have expanded, you know, and flying it on thrusters and making it through a wormhole? Oh, you didn't? Oh, you just was kind of top of your class in your year? Oh, great job. Great job. That's cute. That's cute.
I mean, if you had been a level 5 pilot, then you could have got it.
I have a question though, Jaemeel. Again, back to Star Trek Discovery. You know, and the whole thing with you know, Adiratol and Greytol, and the fact that there's this symbiote that is joined to these two hosts that knew each other, right? And here we also have Curzon and Jadzia knew each other, and sort of have they. So as Jadzia's telling the story to Arjun, you know, telling it from point of view as well. I was Curzon and I was doing this and thinking this, and then I was Jadzia and I was thinking this and doing this, but now I'm Jadzia Dax, and trying to kind of sort that out, you know, is sort of what that really means, and trying to understand what it means to be in this line of hosts. So I guess it's a kind of an open-ended question, but what do you take from that?
I would love to see it kind of explored in Discovery, and hopefully not this season though. I feel like in this episode, Jadzia does a great job of kind of explaining the points of view that Curzon and both she had, and her struggling with kind of having a single point of view to explain. So and that's what she was struggling with early in the episode. She's like, I'm not Curzon, and she was kind of pushing against that, right? And Cisco had to kind of like have her look at the importance of what Curzon was doing, because she was looking at it from only Jadzia's point of view, right? So she had the information, but she didn't have the reasoning really kind of figure it out. And with Ben's help, she was able to kind of understand the reasoning and then see, like, blend it with her own to have like a full picture of the scenario, to which she was able to provide Arjun that support, but at the same time, with all the facts in place, with the understanding, her being the dominant host was able to do it her way. Right now, if she was unsuccessful, it still would have been a feat that she was able to do it, because the dude is such a wet blanket. But it seems like he is kind of heading in the right direction.
Don't give that guy a symbiote. He's not symbiote worthy, I say.
You know what? It's not even important that he's like symbiote compared to the previous person that we saw, who was a failed candidate, right?
Oh, the John Glover.
Yes, I would take Arjun. He's a little bit more well balanced than
barely. He's like, yeah, like it's clear, like, and it's their society, I think, has a lot of questionable traits. I think Trill society, their morals, sort of how they treat this whole thing with symbiotes. That we see later on in Discovery that they're very like kind of set in their ways about it, especially this whole it's Trill only, and Discovery's trying to change that idea, right? But the symbiotes could be any species could be joined with a symbiote, and
any compatible,
like
humanoid at least, maybe, or something like that.
Well, even in this show, though, they reveal that even more Trills can be joined than they thought before, and they keep that a secret.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. There's a bunch of kind of like little things in this episode.
Well,
they're not. They are a weird society.
When he says that his dad was pushing his sister, and then she decided to go off and get married again, and he never spoke to her again.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, Jesus.
Because when she got married, she wouldn't be joined?
She wouldn't be joined. He decided to get married.
He also already knew,
to like the initiate school or whatever, and then he never spoke to her again.
He also already knew that Curzon had, what he had done to Jadzia within the program. He already knew that. So, like, there are different little things like that where you go, well, this is kind of messed up. Like, like you're going to learn about this joined person that, but you already know kind of like their experience, and that might color the way you look at that person.
Yeah.
I just feel that with Trill, it's not going to be a perfect society, and us having the thought process that they would be is kind of like unfair, because the Ferengi aren't a perfect society.
I think
like every society has their faults, though.
Yeah,
I think that's fair, but I think it's worth kind of pointing them out, because I'm always trying to resolve. Okay, like especially with like a species like the Trill, who, aside of having some spots down the sides of their heads, seem pretty much like humans in most respects, in terms of like just the way they seem, like their demeanor and everything else, right? We don't get it, but as we get more of their culture explained, then we start to understand how they are different, or what exactly makes them distinct. We were talking earlier too, Jaemeel, about like, different species like Bajorans, Betazoids, who don't seem super different from humans like Vulcans do or Klingons do, you know, and or Ferengis, especially, you know, it can also be like an aesthetic thing. But in the case of the Ferengi, also have a very distinct culture that you kind of, you know, I get for it, what Ferengis are about. And I think that all of this adds to the world building.
Do you think that everyone seems kind of similar because they've well integrated into the Federation, and so they're part of the Federation culture, whereas individuals or species with like a more, let's see, imposing or different kind of cultural set of ideals, like the Klingons, the Ferengis, even more so
even the Dominion or the Bajorans for that matter,
yeah,
right?
like because their religious thing is so important to them that it kind of automatically puts them as an other, whereas Betazoids, Trill, seemed easier to integrate because there isn't that many things that are different. Or
yes and no. I think, but look at Tellarites, look at Andorians. They're Federation founders, and they're very distinct in their look and in their how are they different. In the case of the Tellarites, they're argumentative pig people. In the Andorians, they're warrior blue people with antennas who are from like this cold ice planet.
Are Trills, like, is Trill a member of the Federation?
Well, that's the whole thing. It's never explicitly said that it is. It's often kind of considered to be sort of this, well, maybe they're not quite a Federation member world. Maybe they're kind of adjacent, or they're sort of they're kind of like Guam or something, you know, or
they're kind of
they're a Federation territory.
They're like they're like an affiliate, or they're somehow.
Do you know what they're like? They're like
Rico?
Turkey.
They're Puerto Rico, or they're Turkey, or there's some allegory.
They're like Turkey. They're in between places.
Again, I keep spoiling Discovery, but no one here cares, except right. So it's
no one. No. You are correct.
By the end of that episode, where they went to Trill, they like at the end, like they said, if you're gonna like rebuild the Federation, we want to be part of that. So at least in that episode, those they said that moving forward they would be into being in the Federation, but it's not clear if they are. Okay. We know there's a lot to dive into there. So I don't want so much, Jeff, because we know that when Jadzia Dax, when she went back in Trials and Tribulations, she had to hide her spots, right? When she was serving aboard the Enterprise, when she had to go on the Enterprise with Sisko, that's because they would. Well, they had met the Trill,
they hadn't met
Trill
yet,
right? And so they didn't know a lot about them. We find out that when Discovery's from the 2250s.
Both had met the Trill.
Yes, they had met the Trill, but they didn't know a lot about them. They knew that they
intimately.
Leela, right? That got down with a young, yes. Exactly, right. But we find out in Discovery that in the 2250s they knew about them, but they didn't know they were a joint species. They didn't know all these things yet.
Well, there was no Trill in Starfleet, so she had to hide her spots because it would stand out
at that time.
With Starfleet uniform at that time.
Right. Yes, they don't. So the relationship with the Trills built over the time of original series to the time of this show. Yeah.
But isn't that kind of weird in general? Because like body modification
in Starfleet.
Sorry, say it again.
I said even if they were in the Federation, there may not have been any in Starfleet.
Correct. That's possible. Or any on the ships we saw. And then Jaemeel, your point?
It just seems kind of weird that we're in the future and body modification isn't a thing. So who's to say someone doesn't want to put freckles down their, the side of their face in that way?
Nothing.
It's like, where are the tattoos? Where are the tats?
Yeah.
They never depict that. Well, only Chakotay. Akuchimoya.
Akuchimoya. We are far from the bones of our ancestors and our tattoos.
Oh, Kevin.
That's why they call me number one.
Nobody calls you that, Chakotay. Nobody. Not even Janeway. She calls Seven number one, or Tuvok.
Dismissed.
You are number 3 at best.
She likes a Kuchimoya.
A Kuchimoya. We are far from the sacred places of our grandfathers and from the bones of our people. But perhaps there is one powerful being who will embrace this good crew and give them the answer they seek.
Still good.
Lord.
I love the way she says that. Okay, so we're going on with a little fun facts with Jeff. DS9 and 9ish edition. Okay, referenced rule of acquisition number 112. Never have sex with the boss's sister.
See, that's funny.
Leak? I detected a leak. Golden leak. In writer Jim Trombetta's first draft of the teleplay, who actually wrote this, not Michael Pillar, the A story was the proto-universe story. With Dax's storyline in secondary position, Michael Pillar rewrote the episode to place the Trill storyline as the primary plot. Trombetta felt that this decision robbed the episode of its emotional balance and that the ethical problem of the proto-universe story is no longer felt on an emotional level.
That's true.
Agreed.
I agree with him.
Agreed. So Michael Pillar ruined this episode. He didn't really write it. He rewrote it to make it worse.
Separate episodes, in my opinion.
Yeah, he rewrote it and he made it worse.
Well.
Yeah.
It should have been an O'Brien story with O'Brien trying to get rid of the things, and then also grappling with how do we solve saving this universe and the comparisons of the two.
Right. Do you think there was a scene filmed where O'Brien was talking to Jake about Jake and the Dabo woman?
No.
Oh yeah.
I don't. The chess game played between Sisko and Dax in this episode is recognizable as the famous game D. Byrne versus R. Fisher from 1956, known as the Game of the Century. The moves shown on screen are roughly moves 14 to 18.
Okay.
Great. All I said is, why aren't they playing 3D chess? It's the fucking future.
And
Why are they playing a regular one-dimensional chess like suckers?
Yeah.
Why isn't Cisco playing 3D baseball? You know?
Why are they playing chess at all? Yeah.
What's wrong with? Hey, don't hate on chess.
Future technology here. Come on. This is what you would do.
That's why they call me number
yes, but chess is still cool.
This episode marks the second and final appearance of the Klingon chef, played by Ron Taylor.
So yeah, only 2 episodes, eh?
It was great.
R.I.P. Ron Taylor.
Richard Poe,
member of the crew.
I wanted more backstory for him.
I wanted more too. He seemed like him and Dax were good friends.
100%.
This is the thing though with Dax. Like all of her friends are people we see for one episode and then they go away.
Rotating door.
Yeah.
Rotating door of people she knows. This episode marks the second. Oh wait, sorry. Richard Poe makes his first appearance as Gul Evek, not mentioned by name, when the crew tell him through the view screen about their pest problem. The character will later have a more prominent role in episodes of DS9 and TNG and Voyager and the pilot Caretaker.
Well, that's a pretty big deal. This is the first appearance of Gul Evek.
This is where it starts, Gul Evek. This is where it all began in this stupid episode. The script describes the Klingon love song as Sigmund Romber-esque. I don't know. The sort of thing Nelson Eddy would have sung to Jeanette MacDonald if they were Klingons.
Right.
So they were going for like a 50s vibe or something. Terry Farrell and Jeffrey Blake, who played Arjun, had previously starred together in the 1980 series Paper Dolls, which is like Terry Farrell's first show she did.
Never.
Blake's character was the boyfriend of Farrell's character. So you think they would have had some chemistry, but nope.
No, jeez. How many seasons did that show get? Like 1? Because
I think that's a good question.
I will say that maybe Arjun made his character so unlikable, so drawn out that he does make Terry Farrell look good. So maybe that was deliberate.
No,
It might be. It would have been like Terry Farrell going into like Jeffrey Breaks like dressing room. Hey, bomb this performance. So I look amazing, and they keep giving me more work because right now it's not looking so good for the old Dax character. Let me tell you. Okay. 2 Pac-Leds get off the ship in the first scene when they first it was actually kind of a cool intro to this episode. They show the shuttle fly right up to the dock.
Oh yeah.
Then they cut and they show you the inside and the doors open and Bashir walks out. It's the only thing he does in the whole episode. He's talking to somebody. And there's someone playing a flute, and then 2 Pac-Leds walk out. That all happens within about 15 seconds of the opening of the episode. So I enjoyed that.
They love Pac-Leds walking around the station. I feel like this whole season.
I think maybe we need a new segment, Pac-Led Watch.
I think it's gonna be a drinking game. Every time the Pac-Leds show up, we have to take a drink.
No problem.
There you go.
Okay, I'm back. First appearance of a Cardassian vole.
It looked so bad.
I love it.
Dave.
I also liked it.
Dave, another 47 reference. Near the end, Jadzia tells Arjun to adjust the heading to 130 Mark 47. Deal with that.
It's
What?
Star Trek. I don't understand.
There's a 47
Oh,
reference.
these 47. It's never been a thing I've been going. But I was just thinking. You know how Jeff, we have the hockey team, the Mall Rats, the movie Mall Rats. What if it was the Promenade Vols? That's kind of like the same thing.
Jeez.
No, it's not.
I'd be on that team.
How about yeah? I don't know if it's the same thing.
It's better.
The
I
Vols.
bet you they wouldn't be fourth.
Yeah.
There
Here's
already
one of
is
these
a Niners,
Promenade Vols kids, like Jake and Nog. Maybe they're the Promenade Vols.
Yeah, they are. This takes place in 2370, guys. Just so you know.
Big year. Big year.
And Sisko fulfilled his promise to Jake to allow him to bring Marta home for dinner in the 3rd season.
Yeah. How old is Marta compared to Jake exactly?
21, 16.
I thought she was 24.
She's a woman.
I thought he was 14.
Yeah, she's not a girl.
14?
He's 8. This is season 2, so he'd be 15.
15. And she's in her 20s. Yeah.
She's early.
This is kind of gross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If the genders were reversed in this, fucking forget about this show. Nobody.
Even if I don't even think even if the genders aren't reversed, it's still creepy.
Very long. Like I think they went.
Yeah, they went a few episodes and went, "Oh, this isn't landing."
It was too early to do that with Jake, I think, especially when he's still in these onesies that he's still wearing, and he looks like he's 10.
If he was 18 and she was in her 20s, no problem. But
yeah, in season 1, he says he's 14, so it's season 2. He's 15 years old.
It might be 16.
Possibly.
Do we ever see Marta's bedroom?
Or he might be 16, but he's no older than 16. He was 14 in the first season.
Right. When moving the proto-universe to the wormhole, just instructed to 50 kilometers per hour, to which Arjun responds that they will reach the wormhole in 17 seconds. That would mean that the wormhole is, in fact, less than 250 meters.
I'm going to guess long.
From the station, or transporting the universe inside the containment field to reduce the distance traveled.
Cool.
Okay.
That's possible. I have a couple more. Okay, so the Vols are probable on DS9, yet no one thinks to use a Federation transporter available on any runabout to beam them off the station, which I mentioned earlier as well.
We can't detect them.
Okay. That's it. Can they? Oh, that's a much malarkey.
Okay. All right. Let's do the ratings. Oh, that's the wrong button. Okay, let's take that off. And rate Plain God, as they called it.
I don't know. I was at work.
I can remember Ketha Lowlands, but I can't remember what episode we watched last week.
Shadow.
We watched Shadow Play last week.
Shadow Play.
Much better episode than this.
Was it?
No.
Kevin, you want to go first?
I gave last week a 5, right?
You gave last week a 5, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go 4 on this one then.
Oh, I'm blacked out for this episode. I'm not even here.
Oh, well, I can bring it back. Just because I copied the last row. You get Ashley.
I give this one a 5.
Okay. If you want to give any rating for you haven't had you here for 3 weeks.
I know I've been working.
Oh, that's good.
Well, we were.
And
Yeah.
I was sick the one day. Yeah.
Okay, Jaemeel.
6.5.
That's what it got on IMDb as well.
Oh,
with
really?
just over 1,300 votes. Jeff.
4.5.
Wow,
Sorry.
yowzers!
I'm gonna give this about a 5.5.
Wow, am I the high point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So the average of the 5 of us is a 5.1. This I mentioned previously has a 6.5 on IMDb. That would put it below average on every scale we have.
I think this is the lowest episode.
It's among them. Yeah. No, it's not.
No.
There's been like some 4.8s and
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong column.
yeah.
The circle.
Our lowest
Vortex.
episode still is Vortex from season 1.
Oof. That was tough.
That was a tough one.
Man,
I don't
really, you
even
guys didn't
remember
like.
it doesn't
I
matter.
understand the criticisms for this episode, but
Second Sight. Second Sight also is one of our lowest rated. So it's not in that category, but it's definitely in the not so good group overall. Next week's episode is called Profit and Loss and features Quark and some Cardassians.
ooh.
Cardassian girlfriend, if you will.
Oh, yeah. That Second Sight episode was
Yeah, we're
terrible.
trying to. I'm looking forward to talking about it because I think there's some stuff to it. But yeah,
I
But-
like this. I didn't mind this episode.
Oh, this episode was better than
I
Second
think it got a
Sight.
better rating than Second Sight, but it didn't get a great rating. Like Jaemeel at 6.5.
I like the Dax aspects of the episode, not really Arjun. And I do like that scene with Odo, kind of like, I don't step on ants.
Yeah,
I don't
It's like,
step on
it's like, well, touche. I guess I don't have a retort to that.
yeah, maybe it was a little harsh on it.
Well, next week we get a Cardassian
It's a
episode,
Quark
guys.
Cardassian
Profit and
episode.
Loss.
Uh-huh.
And the
Even
Quark's in it too.
Her, like girlfriend, his Cardassian girlfriend, comes to
Yeah,
visit.
she wears a white dress.
Oh yeah. I don't remember her name, but yeah.
She always made me think, am I attracted to Cardassians? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yes,
I
you
am.
are.
I'm looking forward to that episode.
Jeff
Um,
loves the Cardassian traps. It's traps.
You could put like the sexiest woman alive in the Cardassian
lizard
makeup,
woman.
and you're still kind of going, ugh.
I don't know. It's I think we'll see. We'll see how what the sex appeal, relative sex appeal of Cardassians is next week. We should bring that up. But I think that
We just compare him to Arjun. Who
I don't
is
care.
more
You
appealing,
throw-
a Cardassian woman or Arjun?
I think
Oh,
Troll
yeah.
Woman in Terry Farrell in her towel in this episode. I think we completely brushed over that. That was fun.
See, this
but-
is why I'm involved. This is why I'm involved to talk about that. Where it's just like she just subtly, like I shouldn't say subtly. They really hammer home. It's like, yeah, she's very open and free.
This is Friends is coming out, man. Like this is
She's like, yeah, it was
90s.
just. I always like to start the morning with a good wrestle.
good wrestle, a mud wrestle. What
Have you wrestled in the morning?
What kind of a line was that? We didn't even bring that one up, but yeah, like
a
really
good
wakes you
wrestle.
up
That
in
was
the
her
morning.
wrestling
Good
partner.
wrestle.
Yeah,
Like,
wrestling partner who hangs around while she goes and takes a shower.
Yeah, well, it's I think it was more than just wrestling.
Yeah, we know what kind of wrestling is going
So
on. Christ.
And it's a great way to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could you just tell Arjun to just wait?
I don't know. It really helps me go back to sleep.
Starts your day off right.
Like, what was the point of her coming out of the shower to tell him to hold on?
She didn't want him to have to worry about what was going on. Like, it could be very disconcerting.
Just like,
He was,
just on the comms, bro, you're early. Wait 5 minutes.
yeah. That would be the simple thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like, no.
She's trying to be nice. She wants to be friendly with this initiate. She doesn't want to be like Curzon.
Like, come in and look at me in a towel for a second.
Yeah.
That's that's the DS9 execs. It's like, okay, we need to get you in a towel. So let's have him show up early and you're just in a towel.
That's probably how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, write that scene in. Change.
It was the 90s. I'm sure they didn't talk to her about it first. It was just in the script.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
You will do this.
They're like, the towels need to push up a little bit more. Can we retake that scene, please? Thank you. Yeah.
You'll see what
She's
they'll
not
do to her
wet
hair
enough.
in season
Put more, her hair was wet.
Here it looked good. Even her hair looked when her hair was wet, it looked good. But you'll see in season 3, episode 1, which we're about to get to in a few weeks, her hair will suddenly go like this, like Bride of Frankenstein. It's very
Jadzia's hair is the thing I hate the most about her. It's actually the only thing I think I hate about her.
It's all over the place.
Big hair.
When it's big,
really got her thing down.
I hate it. It's visually repulsive.
She has a lot of
Never
hair.
noticed.
well, there's some strong opinions out there about the hair, Ashley.
Please, hair watch. We have to have that segment.
No, I've never noticed her hair.
What's going on with Jedzier's hair watch this week? And then we can even continue it when we get to Esri. And then we get to Esri, and she's got that short do thing going on, which I thought she was kind of stealing Kira's look. I thought a little bit with the short do. So
She's like, "What? This is the same haircut I had at Deepwater Black."
Oh.
Is it Deepwater Black?
Not the same one she had in that movie, Cube.
I've
Cube?
literally never seen her in anything else.
And nothing was lost. Nothing was lost.
Jeff, you want to take us away?
Yeah, I feel like this episode is floundering.
Sure, yeah. Okay. For all of us here at Live Long and Podcast, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next week.
You want to wish anybody a Merry Christmas?
Jaemeel has candy corn. Oh yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. All the
Orthodox
like
Christmas coming up in 2 weeks.
Sure.
You all, I'm getting some love.
Ukrainian Christmas.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
And all the Yugoslavian and all that crazy
Life
different
Day,
denominations.
whatever.
Whenever you celebrate your thing.
Congratulations, Happy Solstice, Happy Yule.
Is that from Cochrane Day? That's not till April, but whatever. It's okay.
We won't see anybody till then, so
yeah, it's early. It came early this year.
Happy Super Bowl Sunday. I know we're 2 months away, but happy Super Bowl Sunday.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too.
We have another episode next week, right?
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah. This is just the episode. This is just the DS9 episode before Christmas. So
yes.
Do they have a Christmas episode of DS9?
Yes.
Like a Christmas episode?
No.
They're not really It's not really a Christmas Star Trek episode.
No,
I don't think there's any.
There's any. There's
Or Halloween or
The closest thing is when they do on Deep Space Nine. Actually, no, I think they have like a Bajoran Christmas, don't they? Like it's called Festival of something or other.
Yeah.
There's a Christmas scene in Generations, the movie.
That's true.
That's true.
That's the only thing.
And I think that's why I say Generations is a Christmas movie.
And
Papa. Oh, my God.
I love you, Dad, Papa.
If those were my kids, I'd leave the Nexus too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't want to be here. Jesus, shut up. Get me some eggnog and a cigar.
Papa.
Let's go.
I love you, Dad, Papa.
Papa, will you come out with us, Papa?
What's really funny is Jack, our middle son, calls me Papa a lot. I think because it annoys me.
Papa and Daddy.
Daddy.
Papa.
You only run into problems if he starts calling you Zaddy.
Yeah.
Zaddy.
It's like Zeddy.
Like Bryce Isaiah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Jeff, you gotta mention you gotta mention our other shows and stuff.
Yes.
Oh, I do? I didn't know that was in the contract. Okay. Tomorrow we are doing TED Trek. Come watch my dad pay attention for 5 minutes and then look at his phone for the other 45.
He'll be like, "Hey, what do you think of the episode? It's good." And that'll be it. That's all he'll say. What do you think of this? Oh, it was pretty weird.
On Thursdays, Dave, our most popular show, the Discovery Show, which none of us are on or care about except Dave and Jameel's on.
He was, but yeah, you're more of a commenter now. But we're actually postponing. We're not doing Thursday, even though the show is going to air Thursday. It's Christmas Eve, so we're pushing it to Boxing Day at 9:00 this week.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if binge the rest of Discovery Season 3 and you catch up on that.
We're doing that right now this week.
Yeah, if you want to spend your whole Christmas and Boxing Day just watching Star Trek 3 or Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, you should do it, and you must do it actually.
Okay. And what are we doing? Another radio theater, Dave?
Radio theater will return in 2021. We are going to be doing our second season premiere sometime in January. We're going to pick an exact date. We are going to be starting the second season with a mirror universe theme. Ooh. And we are going to be beginning with Star Trek Enterprise in a Mirror Darkly Part 1 and 2 in a 2-hour season premiere.
Sexy Hoshi.
Yes.
I like to see Michael Chan do
No. You mean you want him to do Sexy Hoshi?
Yeah, and evil.
Yes.
Sexy, I think that'd be
kind of match up, but that's okay.
I think that would be a lot. I think we got a lot of fun. Jaemeel, do you want to come back for the premiere?
I could be Mayweather, the most bland.
Yeah. You won't have to say much. You'll just have to look tough in front of your microphone. Jeff, we also have a Trivial Debates.
Oh yes,
yes, I know. Trivial Debates. Chris Seymour coming back from Brantford.
They gave him a gift basket in Brantford
all the way from London. This isn't a Burlington centric. We got Philadelphia, Pennsylvania represented. Brantford. We got London, Ontario, and we got Brantford. We got nobody's from Burlington except the host,
Jody and Eamon. Well, he's not living there now, but he's
He's not coming to you from Burlington.
No, he'll be coming from London. Actually, maybe for this he will be still in Burlington at that point, but because he will be competing. This is going to be something, I think.
Well, Jody can't win, and
I think we might.
Somehow, I think maybe he still will.
Yeah, he might still win. He might listen to all three of them argue their points and go, "You know what, guys? You're all wrong. I have the right."
Yeah. This is gonna be a crazy episode.
Win this.
This might be the craziest thing we've ever cooked.
Out of the four of them, he is the most likely to win.
Yes,
no,
definitely not.
I don't know. Eamon might pull it off. So
maybe it. We already discussed this. We decided it's probably not going to be Chris.
I don't know. Listening to Chris and Mott argue with each other, I don't think either of them are going to really give each other a hard time.
Chris has fun. So at his new office, so
this is gonna be the most civil Trivial Debates, and I think Jody's gonna lose his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So tune into that December 27th.
This Sunday at 1 Eastern. Okay, thanks everybody.
Well, that's it for all of us here at Tuesdays 9 and 9ish.